Hey, MG hockey community, thanks for joining us for our third episode of Silver Eagle Snapshots. Again, I'm Sean Glenn, been coaching at MG the past 5 seasons. The goals of this series are to provide you some hockey content as well as revisit some of the memorable moments in MG hockey history. Let me take a minute to introduce our coaching staff that's with us here. First of all, assistant coach Ron Hull. Ron's been involved this past season with the JV and varsity and did a great job with our off-ice program. Ron, you want to say hi?
How you doing? Good to see you, Joe.
And also with us tonight is head coach Dave Kinsler. I'm going to turn it over to head coach Kinsler to introduce our week 3 featured guest.
Thank you, John. Today we got Joe Schuchardt. Joe's a 1983 Monona Grove graduate. Joe just happened to his senior year. He was captain of the hockey team, the football team, and the baseball teams. He played all 3 sports for 4 years at Monona Grove. Joe, announced it to most of us, he actually went to the dark side and coached at Madison La Follette for a few years. Got his legs wet over there a little bit and came back home and coached for over 15 years at Monona Grove. He was a mainstay at the Madison Patriots in development in the youth program there. His son, Drew, and his 3 nephews all played hockey at Monona Grove. Probably one of the most famous things for Joe, though, is Joe is one of he has 7 brothers in his family, and the Schucharts are probably the bedrock of Monona Grove High School hockey and the Monona Grove community. Joe Schuchardt.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Joe, thanks for being here. Just want to get this started. Could you briefly overview your playing career?
Yeah, Dave hit on some of it already. But yeah, 1983 graduate. Really, I think, fortunate to play 3 sports all 4 years at MG. I think that was a huge asset for myself to develop my skills. I think my sophomore year, Dave, your junior year, we went to state. And that was obviously a huge accomplishment for the MG program. Back in that day, it was a 4-team tournament, so making it to state was quite a bit more of a grasp, I think, for MG. Like Dave mentioned, I think, honestly, since MG's hockey's inception until I graduated in '83, there was a Schuchardt on the roster, which is kind of crazy. So 6 of my 7 brothers played at MG. My oldest brother John, they didn't have hockey yet, so he didn't have that choice. He wrestled. So, but my son, like Dave mentioned, my son Drew played at MG for 4 years. Enjoyed doing that. He graduated in 15, and then my nephews played for MG, and then as well I have nephews that I coached against, which was quite a bit of fun. There's obviously some good rivalry going there. I think Dave really recruited me to get into coaching, and I think it was in '87 I started with the Patriots and started out with a guy named Phil Shearer. And Phil was a great guy. He was my stepdad, so to speak. He helped me learn the game, and then really moreover learn the management of the team, management of players and parents. And he was a great start to my coaching career. I learned a ton from him. And then as well, Coach Kinsler, I coached with him at the Patriots at the Bantam level for a bit, and that I learned a ton as well. I think one other element of my coaching career that probably I don't forget about it. I still have some of the stuff hanging in my office, but was Dave and I worked at a program called the Madison Hawks, and we coached there for 3 or 4 years, and it was really one of the early before and after teams, so that high school kids didn't have to go to AAA. They could play a higher level of competition in the fall and spring, and still play their high school sports, which for us is a key element, because high school sports is the pinnacle in my opinion. So that was a lot of fun. I gained, great experience coaching there. Probably one of my highlights of coaching with the Hawks was we took a team to Lake Placid, and our locker room was the locker room of the Miracle team. And that, I tell you what, when you walk into that rink as a hockey guy, you feel the chills. I mean, it really is incredible. And I could go on like 20 stories with that trip, but that was a blast trip. We just had a great time. Kids played really well. And I think there's two people out of that program I want to mention is Danny Zakis and Elvis Katlefs. Elvis played at UW. He came out and helped coach, and I learned so many defensive skills from Elvis. It was a great experience. And then Danny was just a great mentor. He continually, worked on my coaching abilities, whether it's personal, whether it's game, or managing parents. And that was a big reason why my coaching career continued. As Dave mentioned, I went to the dark side for probably 3 seasons and went to La Follette. It was a good experience. I had a great time. Actually, Dauber was there with me, and so I had a little bit of sanity there, but it was fun. Coaching at the Patriots was a good gig as well, and I think that's what some of us gain out of hockey is, it's like we got a lot out of playing high school hockey. We got out a lot of it, but what can we give back to the game? And I think that's where a group of us went into the Patriots and got on the board. And I was an ACE director for a number of years and really tried to raise that level of not only the kids from a skill standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint. And so that was fun. When Drew got done with his Bantam year, I thought, man, I'm a hockey dad. This is going to be fun. 4 years sitting in the stands, yelling at Coach Kinsler and all that stuff. I was like, this is going to be fun, And it was like 2 weeks before the season, Dave calls me. He's like, hey, you have to coach. I'm like, I'm not coaching, and he's like, no, you have to. And I'm like, I did, and it was a great experience again coming back. And obviously, Sean, you and I spent some years together there, and it was a great experience. We had a lot of fun. So, but yeah, that's kind of the long version of it. But I do want to say that Coach Kinsler and Danny Zakis and Elvis and Phil were some huge mentors in my career and really helped me to grow to be the coach that I was.
That's incredible stuff, Joy. Elvis was a pretty phenomenal individual. He died recently, but he went over to the Milwaukee Junior Admirals and did a really good job over there for a lot of young kids at the Admirals. So it was really good stuff. One of the questions I always get, Joe, from guys in our generation that have gone through is like, what's the difference between today's players and all of us as former teammates were? And, the question I'm always wondering in the back of my mind, they're always asking, well, we were much better than the kids are today. But I'm curious of what your answer would be and how you perceive the kids that are playing today versus your former teammates.
I think the skill level of the kids today is far superior. I do think one of the things that the kids don't have today that we had was we played a ton of pond and a ton of street hockey, and we learned more intricacies of the game. The kids today are a little bit more video game-ish, where it is they want predictable elements to come with predictable results, and I think that's probably one of their downfalls. It's not every player, but I would say the skill level of today's player is far superior in most of the players. And I would say the level of intensity in our area was probably quite a bit higher. The game has changed, right? I mean, when we played high school hockey, there was an element of intimidation that is really not part of the game anymore, and to a certain extent. And I think that's a good thing, really. But I think that's it's just different. It's not that honestly, the skill level of the kids, today's kids, is far superior.
It's great. So when I started playing hockey, you were actually my first high school coach. We started the JV team that year, 97 to 98, and one of my favorite things about you is that like you were one of my first coaches, and I just remember you directing us on the bench and stuff, and that I got some time to actually get to know you, and as well as Dave. But like I have a couple like very good memories of you that we're not going to talk about right now. But what for you being a player? What was your favorite like game time memory? Monona Grove game time memory.
This one's easy, and and my apologies to Dauber, but obviously beating East in the sectional final to punch our ticket to state, and God bless Dauber. He's taken a lot of heat over this for the years. I would say he probably didn't have his best game, but that was one from a playing perspective was one of the highlights of playing career, and that was a lot of fun. And obviously going to state is a special experience that not many get to do.
Thank you.
Hey Joe, we've had our previous two guests talk a lot about how MG is more than just 4 years of hockey. It's really a program for life. What makes MG special, and what would you say to the families that are weighing MG versus the AAA options out there?
Yeah, and I'll do that in reverse. There's so many options out there for the kids. My son was lucky enough to play wheel. And what a great opportunity for kids that want to play fall sports to still be able to play high school hockey and still excel their career. And those are big commitments, but I think those opportunities are honestly out there, and people at times are afraid to pursue them, and they should pursue them because kids make it, and it is not. I know in the past, like your kid won't make it or whatever. Drew's first year he made it as an alternate, and it was probably it was a great thing because the alternates were free, and he played in every game. And meaning their opportunities were there because people had commitments that honored those commitments, but you still had the ability to play at a higher level. And nothing against the AAA, but I would say that their abilities to place players in the next level is marginal. And high school hockey for most kids is going to be the pinnacle. And why not enjoy it and play for your classmates and play for your school? It's something that I think the kids that do it say they would never change it, and I wouldn't, and it's irreplaceable. I think what makes like MG hockey special though is the community of the hockey, and I go back to just like one thing that there's a lot of people that help with it, but as an example, we decided we were going to do a locker room, and people like Tom Harden and Tim McDonald and Tom Johnson, Jim Martini, Sean Ott, John Pro, Paul Dutcher, and many players came out, and we built a locker room. And it was a community element that did it. We had a lot of moms that painted it. It was a great community effort, and that tells a lot about the MG hockey community. It's more than just the game.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, it's awesome, Joe. You bring about how one of the assets that we have is a community that's always been there for MG hockey, and it's been there, since its inception in the late 60s. You bring in some of the things where, without you and without the Monona Grove Hockey Foundation, we would not have some of the tools that we have, like our locker room. So what have you changed? What have you seen changed, or have you seen hockey, Monona Grove hockey adapted over time? Have you seen us as a program stay true to some things, and then have you seen us adapt and change over strange time that we're having now? We're having a Zoom meeting and discussing the history of Monona Grove hockey a little bit.
Yeah, and so I think one thing is academics was always important and always stressed, I think the big thing that's changed though is coaches, okay, it's important, right? But how are we going to make it? How are we going to make it so that kids can succeed? It's one, it's, you can talk it all day long, but what, and so I think you've done a great job of giving those kids that need that help the opportunity to get some additional help and make them successful as people as well as hockey players. And I think that's a level that of commitment that all you guys have done, and it's what takes the program to the next level. And so I think that's the academics is really part of it. I think the other part of it is just the classroom stuff that we've done, and so that the kids understand the game is an important element. The program is still deeply rooted and has good roots, and it's got good values, and I think that's one of the keys. You don't have to go very far in Madison or even in the in the Badger South and see what coaching turnover does for a program. We don't have that leadership at the top. It really makes for a fragmented program, and it can set programs back. And so, kudos to Coach Kinsler for putting up with all of us and sticking with the program and taking it to the next level. It really is. It makes a huge difference. And we've seen other programs where it's the coach of the year club and they don't succeed.
Absolutely. So one of the things we talk about with our athletes at Monona Grove is athleticism, and we encourage them to play other sports in the off season. Not even just, not hockey, but other sports as well. So you mentioned, or Dave mentioned, that you played football. I didn't know that you played football. But what other? Yeah, I know, right? What other sports did you play? Just football, or did you play other sports? And then how did that help you as a player to see the game better?
Yeah, so I played football, hockey, and baseball all 4 years at MG. So, and they're all really different games, right?
Right.
Baseball's a fair amount of standing around and strategy, and then some quick bursts. Hockey, endurance. Football is quite a bit different, but I think there's, and I still think it's true, is that there are hockey players and there's athletes, and Dave and I have watched. We did the football clock for, I don't know, a lot of years, but and we would seek out the athletes because that's what you need to make your program successful. We don't need hockey players per se, meaning the kids that have the well-rounded athletic skills, hand-eye coordination from baseball, intensity, physical tenacity from hockey, and are big things. And so I think the multi-athletes have developed a far better overall skill. And I think if again, we're not the whatever the Gary Suitors, but if you look at many athletes, they could have gone and played different sports at a collegiate level, and it's because other than hockey, because they're athletes. And I think that's a key element that our better players in the past. I mean, an easy one, right, is Jessie Vetter. Was she an athlete? Absolutely. I mean, she was a knockout baseball player, knockout soccer player, and one hell of a goalie.
Hey, Joe, you mentioned a little bit before about this, but I'll just have you expand on it. How do you think the game has changed from the days when you were playing, and what skills should current youth players be developing in the game nowadays?
The small area games is still a huge element, right? And I think anything, skating on big sheets, and that's what's great about our youth programs across ice, is that the kids are getting much more touches than they are playing on 100 by 200. I think those are really good. I think from a coaching standpoint, the differences in players today is really how they're motivated. Back in our day, which you were motivated by not losing your playing spot, and I think that's still true. But there was a lot more of a fear as a motivation of players than it was of. There's more reasoning today and more explanation to try and have them understand what's going on, and I think it's a good thing. But I would just tell you the skills that young players should be, trying to is just go in the garage and grab, whether it's a puck or and just do the skills. And frankly, you can build little things to make stick handling and shooting. They don't have to be elaborate. I know I've given some to Toby Kinsler for his kids, and frankly, I mean, I didn't have great hands in high school. I was a tough player. I played defense, but my son Drew, his hands are like incredible because he went into the garage and just spent time playing with the puck, and those are huge elements to try and develop your overall skills.
You've alluded to a lot of like the personal assets that and skill levels that kids should develop and have. One of the things that some people may or may not know is you're extremely successful in your business world. Running Findorf in northern Wisconsin, which is an incredible feat in itself. And I'm curious, in your professional and business world, and in the coaching world and being around kids, are there other things that you've seen that carry over from your sporting world to employees that you might have now? You're building a lot of different things for different school districts, and you've seen different school district employees. Are you seeing where athletics and sports and those leadership opportunities maybe help out when they're in professional like yourself?
Absolutely. And I think, if you didn't play on a team growing up, or if you haven't coached teams and what it takes to pull together, I'm less in project management now, but used to be heavy. And, pulling a team together as a coach is not an easy thing, because if you look at a 20-man roster, you got 20 different personalities, and sometimes you have, 30, because, the kid's personality changed after a day. And really you develop those skills as a coach to pull a team together, and you be a leader on the thing, whatever it is. And I think those are key elements that I gained from coaching and from playing, is that, not everybody is Aaron Rodgers, right? And I think that's one area where MG has really taken the next step, is that we've gotten kids, or you have, Coach Kinsler, gotten kids to take on roles. It may not be the glamorous role, but we've had kids and they can provide a great element. And again, that's that team building, because not everybody on your team, whether it's work or in hockey, is going to be that A player. Not everybody's going to be your center, to be your leader on the line, right? So I think those are some key elements.
Awesome.
Absolutely. So do you keep in touch with any other MG players, like teammates or any guys you coached?
You
talk to Troy at all?
It's interesting. What's that?
You talk to Troy Richardson at all?
You know what? I see him probably every 5 years, and we still have a gut busting laugh. Because that was fun for the group. If they didn't know, Troy in his shop welding class took a aluminum stick and put a steel pipe inside of it, because I had a habit of breaking sticks, and so Troy handed that to me, and so I tried to break that, and I think I nearly broke my wrist doing it. But so that was fun. But yeah, obviously keep in contact with Coach Kinsler and other players that we played with, and then and some players that we've coached I run into occasionally, but it's fun. Obviously having a son that played, so I do get to see some of his buddies like Jordan Gerathanis and Matthew Dutcher and Derek Provenzano, and all great kids, and were great assets to our program back in the day.
That's great.
So, Joe, I really appreciate your time tonight. You know what? Is there anything else that you think you got to put on the table for us that we should know for the history of MG hockey? You've been through the gamut. I think one of the cool things that you did mention, since almost the beginning of MG hockey to relatively short history today, that there's been a Schuchardt on a roster at Monona Grove High School, and that's pretty exceptional. Anything else?
No, I appreciate it, you guys, and this is a cool thing. I think it'll be a good thing for the community to see. Because I think some of the history can be lost, and this will be a nice way to monument it.
Right, and in conclusion, the things that you brought to us, thank you. Yes, you held us up, etc. But the locker room that we use every year, we treat it like it is gold because it is a great asset to have that locker room to build our own personal team community. And without you, that would have never happened. It would have never been part of the whole thing. And we really appreciate you actually putting the building blocks together to create the center of our entire team. So thank you for everything you've done for us.
Well, thank you. It's been fun, and I appreciate everybody's time tonight. It was fun.
Awesome.